Obviously, just really excited to be back on the field. Every year's a new year. I think we talked about it early last year in the fall. Every defense has to find their identity, and this is just the start. It won't end at the end of spring. I mean, it's going to carry through fall camp, and even last year it carried early at the beginning of that season until we found ourselves. So, really excited about the veteran leadership that we have. I mean, as good a group as I've ever been around. So, sorry for a little bit winded. I was running some extra post-practice conditioning with the backers, so trying to get in shape myself. But I'll take any questions.
All right, we'll open up with Josh Moore.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, Josh.
Hope you're doing well. About the veterans in particular, for them, does it change or help them? I guess how can you maybe, with a change in offense, how that for them especially, I would think it'll be interesting to see how they respond to seeing different looks in practice and how that kind of goes.
Oh, absolutely. What makes it so good for us is it's not stagnant. And for, like you said, if I've been a veteran that's been in this system 3 or 4 years, you get accustomed to seeing that offense across from you every day in practice, in spring, in fall camp. The only time you go against a different offense is in season. So now this is like facing a different offense for them. And so it really forces them to focus, to dial in. Again, some of those older guys, we're really trying to broaden their football IQ, and we're moving them around in some different spots. Not, one, for emergency purposes. You never know what happens in the season, but two, the more they understand from someone else's shoes, it makes them a better player, at their current position. And then again, you tie that in with the, seeing a new offense. It's been a really good first 2 days.
John Hale.
Brad, Jalen was obviously such an important part of the defense last year. A, who are kind of the guys working at that Mike spot this spring? And B, I guess, whoever wins that job eventually, how important is it going to be for DeAndre to kind of step up and do even more in terms of leadership, communication, all those things on the field, the heart of the defense?
Well, let me start with DeAndre, and then I'll move into the Mike position. DeAndre's been a guy that has been a big-time leader for us, really, since he stepped on. He was a quiet leader. As a freshman, you're not saying much, but what he did, he showed up every day and worked. And to be, quote, undersized, when he showed up as a freshman, and to play the reps and the snaps that he did as a freshman, he led and he gained trust of his teammates by his play style and his work ethic. And then he moved into that sophomore year and that junior year, and he started to take more of a role, within that linebacker room. And obviously the unquestioned leader sort of last year in that room, did a lot of the communication. There's a lot of, obviously, talk of Jamin, and he had a phenomenal season. But DeAndre Square, don't get it wrong, is very much a heartbeat of our defense. And what we've challenged him to do, and he's taking that role personally, is to be a defensive, not just that group, but that whole defense, be a vocal leader. And so far, so good. Really impressed, with how he's taken that onto his shoulders. He's asked for more, responsibility in that, and we're going to give it to him. Not only has he earned it, but he deserves it. Now, to the Mike position, De'Eric, is going to be, a lot running with the one group. Hey, listen, you come in as a true freshman without a spring. You just come in. He came in the spring, but he had the shoulder, so he wasn't able to do anything. And granted, there was only, a couple of practices anyway before COVID. And so then he gets into fall camp. So really essentially a true freshman, plays some, against Auburn and played, a couple snaps throughout the season. So he knows what it's like to play in an SEC game. And, challenged him to become to become more vocal. He's very much an introvert, and to play that position, to play the mic, you've got to be an alpha, and we're continuing to draw that out of him. He's got it in there. He plays like an alpha, but now he needs to vocalize that. And then Luke's gonna be a guy that is competing for that spot. For him, he's got to learn this defense, and this is day 2, new install. So not only did he have day 1 on Tuesday, now he had day 2 install today. It starts stacking up. It's a lot of moving parts. Again, with the offense that we're seeing, there's going to be a lot of teaching on tape, but he'll settle in and he'll get it. And then backing up DeAndre, Jared's a guy that really, for being at the inside backer position just for one season, you saw huge growth from start to finish. And now it's time to take another step. And, that's going to be a huge spring for Jared, because he's a guy that we're going to count on. And he's got to be able to continue to take those steps, because he's got a chance to be a really good linebacker.
Brad, obviously Liam's putting in a new offense. How much have you two worked together about accomplishing what he wants to accomplish, and also him working with you about what you want to accomplish on defense this spring?
No, I think that's, whoever the offense and defensive coordinator, there needs to be that synergy. And again, this isn't just about me and our defensive staff, creating just, a one-sided great defense. It isn't about, Liam and the offensive staff just creating this juggernaut of an offense. It's about creating the best team and getting things done and getting accomplished for each other. So we sit down and we go through all our team periods and say, okay, what do you need to see here? Hey, you can give me whatever you want. Oh, that's perfect. And then, we can go independent. But there'll be some times I'll walk in and say, can you give me this, formation or this look or this play? And he'll, hey, can you give me this front or this coverage? So that's very much a part of it. Obviously, from the jump, he's such a personal guy, extremely professional. So it's an easy work environment.
Katie McDaniel hasn't played a lot, but he's going to be asked to do more. What do you envision for him this spring, and how do you get him more game ready despite not playing more reps?
Yeah, he's playing his more natural position right now. When I recruited him, long-term vision for him was Jack, and that's what I think he's more comfortable at that position. But from a position of need, his first 2 years, I needed him to play Sam. I needed him out there to the field to back up Boog. But now he's going to rep primarily there into the boundary, get to use, his twitch, because he's a guy that has twitch in the pass rush. And, so from there into the boundary, that Jack position, him and Jordan Wright, will be able to rotate. Jordan's got such a comfort level, in our system that he can play Jack, he can play Sam. He's played both throughout his career here, so he can do it at a drop of a hat, which it's such a luxury for us to have a guy like that. And you talk about a guy that stepped up into a leadership role. He understands that that's his room now. And for the last 2 years, you had Boog in the room, and the year before that he had Josh, and now it's his voice. And he's really taken that. He's taken the reins. But again, it's early. He needs to show the consistency. And especially once we get pads on, we need him to be, a physical presence. But back to KD, I've seen it in the first 2 days of practice. He just looks more comfortable. He's closer to the football. That's what he was in high school. And into the boundary, there's a little bit less space, so even when he has to walk out. And you can tell so much about that position. It's learning and it's confidence. And I think, and one of the reasons I start guys out at Sam And people think you should go in reverse. Hey, put him into the boundary. It's less space. It's less thinking. But then if you have to flip a guy out to the field, he feels like a fish out of water. Well, if you put him as a fish out of water early, as he grows into his body, and when you need him to be ready, and then you put him into the boundary, one of two things are going to happen. He can play the field, or he flips into the boundary and he says, wow, there's a lot less field over here. The confidence is brimming, and now he can play fast and physical. And again, it's only 2 days of practice, and 2 installs. And the big thing with KD for him is he has got to grind in the playbook. And he's really done that this offseason. He's up early. He stays late. So really excited to watch the progression from him, because if he can get going, that's a guy that can really help us.
Who do you have at the Sam right now?
Well, we're going to rotate. We've got Vito and Joel, in that sort of that medium position out there. D-Rob plays that as well. We're also rotating some of those older safeties, so they know the medium spot. So, again, you talk about broadening what Yusuf Corker and Ty Asian can do. We're trying to give them access to every position, because it's going to make them better at their primary position. And then from a base linebacker position, we're going to have Bembry out there. And again, that was a position that I recruited Bem to be. When we took him out of junior college, he was coming to play Sam. But we had such a need at that moment for inside backers, we slid him in there. And so now you get sort of a jack of all trades. He can give you some, provide some depth inside if, emergencies happen. But then I think he's more comfortable, out there as a Sam backer. So things are starting to fit. The puzzle pieces are starting to fit together where the best spot for each guy. But it's still early in camp. And, guys are going to be fighting, competing, and really looking forward to see who rises.
I got time for a couple more. DeAndre is there as well. Jeff Drummond.
Hey, Brad, I was noticing on your pre-spring roster that got put on the site that a couple of guys seem to have changed their body types a little bit, especially on the D-line. With Josh Pascal seems to be up a little bit, and Marquand seems to be down a bit. Is that a good thing for both of them, and part of the goal they've been working on?
Yeah, Coach Ed and Coach Hill do an unbelievable job down there in the weight room. And, especially, for some guys in this time, it's about, bulking them up, and some will lose it through the course of spring and the course of summer, and they'll be more at, a weight that they're comfortable at. Some it's sort of a trial and error to see, hey, how much can they handle? For others, like Marquand, he's been really, really working. He understands that, the load that he's going to have to carry this year. And to do that, he's going to have to get his weight down. And it's been a battle for him, a daily battle that he has to stay focused on, very much like Quentin, when Quentin was here. And then, you saw with Q that senior year, he was really able to find a way to combat it and keep it down, and played at a lower weight last year. And you saw Q's play was so much better. And for Marquand, he's never going to be a 225-pound guy like myself. No, but for Quan, if he can get to a number, and I'm not going to put one out there, but, we've got one that we've talked to him about. He's going to be able to play big, strong, fast, and physical. There are very few people that I've been around that are his weight that have his foot speed. And if we can just trim a little bit more off, like he can be a force for us, and we need him to be in the middle of that defense. And so, I think you've heard Coach Stoops talk, and I've talked early in that, he seems different. Like a light switch has gone off for him. It's that senior year. He sees the light at the end of the tunnel, and his maturity level is really elevated, and we need it to stay that way.
If I could follow up on, Josh is listed at 302. Is that kind of what you had mentioned about trying to see how much he can handle on that frame?
I don't know about the exact weights that are up there. You'd have to put them on the scale, but he seems to be moving around just fine. So I don't, weights fluctuate.
Hey, we'll wrap up with Josh.
Brad, when you look at you brought up some of the guys earlier, just the secondary as a whole. How's that just early on shaping up? And there's some turnover there, but that's been something that last couple of years that you all handled pretty well.
Yeah, it's like anything. Every year there's going to be sort of ebbs and flows. Hey, when it started in 19, it was like, oh, it's going to be a whole new secondary. Then it was, hey, we've got experienced corners and less experienced safeties. Now this year it feels like we're really deep and experienced at safety, a little bit younger out at corner. But at the end of the day, it's all about finding a cohesive unit, guys that work together. And I'm really encouraged by, again, the veteran leadership that we have at safety. You think about Yusuf, and you think about Ty, and you think about D-Rob, and then you've got a guy like Quandre. I mean, you've got some older DBs back there. And you got Said, out at corner. And Said, again, you've got a senior there. So it's not like we don't have some veterans out there on the edges. Now we're going to have some young guys competing for spots, guys that are freshmen. But I know Coach Klink and Coach Buff will do a phenomenal job. They have, some of the route matchups that they picked up today usually take through camp to pick up, and I was really impressed of how quickly even the young guys were able to pick them up today. So again, this is going to be a deal that everybody looks or they question this or that, and every single year they rise to the occasion. And we've got a standard, and we've set the bar. So as a defense, it's not about falling under the bar. Now it's about jumping the bar and exceeding. And now let's push that bar up. Hey, if I'm a 6-foot high jumper and I can do it all the time, let's push it to 6'2" or 6'4" or 6'6". But that's a daily battle. It's a daily grind. And we're going to have good days and bad days, good plays and bad plays. It's about how you respond to that. Again, we're going to lean heavy on this veteran leadership because it's kind of an interesting dynamic if you look at our defensive roster. Like, you're either old or you're really young. Like, we don't have sort of a middle group right now. So we're going to lean heavy on the old guys to pull the young guys to close that gap. And we're going to push hard on the young guys to not act like young guys. And they've got to close the gap. They've got to act like juniors. They got to act like sophomore. And so it's just day two. But I think you can hear it in my voice. I really like this group. I like, obviously our coaching staff I enjoy coming to work each and every day. And, they don't get enough verbal mention, but John Summerall, Steve Clinkscale, Frank Buffano, Anwar Stewart, and you got, guys like, Joe Scola and Greg Minuski and, our GAs. They do a phenomenal job, and it's an absolute pleasure to come to work and wear the UK because of the people that Coach Stoops has brought into this program.